we happen to have but one of the most famous all-wheel drive C10s. You saw it on Hoonigan channel, this versus that. So we're gonna go over his truck and see the differences because it's a very similar all-wheel drive setup that we have in his truck versus the C10.
I'm Austin Schiestel. I'm from Canada. I drove 12 hours to get down here.
Yep.
And my Instagram is Boostdsuprsport. Boosted and super spelled with no E's. And yeah, this is my Chevy C10 partial Escalade.
Yep. Perfect. All right, cool. So I guess to begin with kind of what I'm interested in, like, so what year Escalade did you go with?
I went with an 02 Escalade.
Okay.
And honestly, the reason for that was because I got it cheap.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a $1,000 truck.
Yeah. And
I was able to actually part it out and make money off of it.
Yep.
And then keep all the parts that I wanted.
Yep. That's awesome. So were you originally after just the front half, or did you really want to do like what were you trying to do? Was it a short wheelbase or a long wheelbase?
It was a short wheelbase.
Okay.
And my original intention was to use the entire frame.
Yeah.
I got it home, I got the body off the frame, and I started kind of tapping places on the frame with a hammer. And about the only good part of frame on it was the part that I used on this truck. Right. Everything else was rotten. Yeah. And I thought, you know what, I can patch it, I can make this work. And then I got into like lowering kits because I wanted this truck really low. Mm-hmm. And when I looked at the lowering kit stuff, it was really expensive and it was hard to get it as low as I wanted to with the stock chassis. Right. So I was on my way to work one morning and I was trying to think of ways that I could do this. And I'd been scrolling through my phone, trying to figure out, you know, how am I going to make this work? I thought about taking the Escalade, just the diff, and somehow making it work with the C10. Right. And then I saw a picture of a car that was back half. Yeah. Yep. And it had a big bulkhead across the back and then the narrowed frame rails. Yep. And I thought, well, what's stopping me from doing that, but up farther? Mm-hmm. So I figured it out. I figured out that it was possible to do it. There's no reason why it wouldn't work. Yeah. And then my other hurdle was to try and get the engine and transmission actually through the frame because that bulkhead was going to go across. Right. So what I effectively did is I offset the two frames, which raised up the engine and transmission, and it also lowered the truck 1.5 inches just through like a body drop effectively, which also helped me keep my my CV angles a little straighter on this too. Yeah, right. So I guess, so the body, so with the cab, did you have to cut just the whole floor out and then drop it down, or? Actually, the only thing I had to cut was the trans tunnel. The entire trans tunnel in this truck is fabricated. Yeah. And there are a couple braces that run up the floor, and I had to cut them out and then just push the floor up a little bit with a hammer. Okay. But for the most part, like, it wasn't that hard to get the body to sit down over top of it. Yeah. Escalades, they carry the frame, the engine and transmission a lot higher because of the diff. Yep. But I was able to make everything fit. The trans tunnel's not that pretty, but it works really well. Yeah. And I plan on actually modifying it later on. I'd like to make it all out of aluminum so I could just remove it. Pop it out. Yeah. Cool. It's all welded in. It's steel right now. So I guess you slice the front off, and then you have a piece going across, and it narrows back to like a stock width of a C10? Yeah, so the frame under the cab is actually factory C10 frame. Okay, so you can use the same mounts and everything? Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's cool. So it's factory mounts on it, factory bushings even. Yeah. But yeah, that also allowed me to be able to set the cab back on without having to figure out where I needed mounts and things like that. Yeah, that's easy. All right, cool. Well, I guess we'll work our way back. Yeah. And I set the cab down, and I would cut some of it and then pick it up, put it on jack stands, kind of figure out where I needed it, cut some more out, set it back down until I basically got it to fit. Right. And then I made a frame out of 1/4 inch round bar to go over top of the engine and trans, and then I just basically sheeted over it. Oh, cool. That's awesome. All right, that's pretty easy way to do it. So, with this frame, so this is the stock. That's the stock frame. Okay. Yep. This is stock frame, and then I guess you just kicked it up if you wanted to lower it. Yeah, I wanted to get it lower without having to C-notch. The other problem is that my C10, the frame was also like really bad on it. Yeah, yeah. And there was holes all through the frame from the cab back. Yeah. So basically what I did is I cut a notch in the top of the frame on each side, and then I was able to kick it up. Yep. And then I built this frame on top of the original C10 frame to keep everything square. Yeah, and just chopped it out. Yeah, and then I chopped it out from underneath. That's what a lot of guys do, like
like when they do like a frame notch, they'll like weld around it and then just chop the middle out.
Yeah, so that's basically what I did,
Yeah,
and then
cool.
all I had to do was put flat bar on the sides of the original frame
Knocked
to
it
square everything up, and then clamped everything to it, and then welded this all up, and yeah, just cut the original one out from underneath it.
Cool, man.
It worked really well.
So are you using the Escalade rear end?
This is the Escalade rear end, yeah.
Have you had any issues with it?
None.
Yeah.
It's a 373 gear. I put a Eaton True track in it,
Nice.
but factory gears, factory axles.
Yep.
It took hours to cut off all the extra stuff because like an Escalade factory is 4-link, right? So
Yeah. Yep.
it had a lot of junk on these axles, but
Yeah, they're all nice.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's 373.
Yep.
Okay. Because mine's a little bit newer, but mine's a 342.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, but I think those guys have a 6-speed in them.
Yeah.
So, I don't have a 6-speed in that, but I think they had a lower gear restriction.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
these, the 02 to what would it be? 06.
Yeah, yours is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So they all had 373 gears. In them.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I guess because it has a 4L65 in it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. Cool. And so motor and trans. We'll go back up to the motor, I guess. What motor are you running?
So this is a 5.3 liter L33.
Okay.
It's stock bottom end. It's got like 450,000 kilometers on it.
Nice.
I don't know what that is in miles, but it's quite a bit.
Yeah.
I picked it up out of a junkyard, and I threw a Summit Racing Stage 3 twin turbo cam in it,
Okay.
and then BTR 660 springs. I upgraded the trinions on the factory rockers, and yeah, the intake, 1000cc injectors, and then the 85mm turbo.
Okay.
And it's on a Trick performance manifold.
Okay. Cool.
And then
Yeah.
I did all the piping otherwise myself.
Nice. It looks good, man. So what trans are you running?
This is a 4L80E. It's
Okay.
got stock clutches in it.
Yep.
Upgraded input shaft. I say stock a lot, but
Yeah.
a lot of this is a lot of it's stock parts.
Well, a lot of guys think that you have to build something like this, you have to do something so expensive and buy all this billet stuff. But I mean, you can put a 4L80 in it and they hold really well.
Yeah, like it's a hardened input shaft and a FTI 3800 converter in it.
Okay.
But
The
otherwise,
3800 stall?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's the issue with mine. But
Okay.
yeah.
And the transfer case is bone stock.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And is it 241C?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
It could be the 4L80 could be
2500 truck. Well, originally it was actually. So I had one from a 2500 truck.
Yeah.
And at some point the oil left and was replaced by water. And when I pulled it apart, it was seized up. It was like rusted solid.
Oh wow.
So this transfer case is actually out of a 1500, and I just swapped the input, like the input.
Yeah,
gear.
it's a different slot.
Yeah, exactly. But it's swapped over, not bad. So
That's cool.
I didn't enjoy doing it. Transfer cases are kind of
Yeah, they're kind of messed.
yeah.
Line everything up.
Yeah. It wasn't that much fun, but it went okay. So yeah, it's actually out of a 1500 truck with a different input shaft.
4L80. So you just had to fabricate a transmission mount and stuff, and that's pretty much.
So what I did is there's a local company to me. They're called TMR Customs, and they make a lot of off-road parts for Jeeps.
Yeah.
And they had a transmission cross member kit, like a universal one.
Oh yeah. I
And
guess that's nice.
it's got bushings in each end.
Yeah.
So what I did is I did away with the transmission mount.
Oh okay.
Because when you're working on these and you want to take the transfer case off, in order to actually get the lower nut on the transfer case, you have to take the mount out.
Oh okay.
This no longer has a mount. It's just got two spacers that go up from the trans mount to the transfer case. So I can take that nut out, and then the cross member's isolated at each end with the bushings.
Yeah.
And then that also makes it so that the front drive shaft actually never gets any closer to the transmission mount.
Right. That's the issue I have with that one, because the drive shaft kind of close to it.
Yeah.
My shifter, I have to like bend out of the way to get it to spin. It's very close. But
yeah,
that's cool. That's a good idea.
So it worked out really well. And then if I ever need to change the angle that the transmission's on too, all I have to do is shorten my spacers.
Sweet. Cool. All right. One thing I do want to talk about, coilovers. So what coilovers are you running, and like what, do you know the spring rate and everything of them? Or?
I honestly don't know the spring rate on them. I should. I ordered them, but
it's okay.
I think they're 900. I think they're 900 pounds.
Okay. So they're QA1 single adjustable.
Yeah, they're QA1 single adjustable.
So did you order them? Like, did you go to order them from like a Silverado, or because I don't know if they make them for?
I just ordered. I did some measurements, and I just ordered universal ones through Summit Racing.
Okay.
The lower control arms are DJM control arms, so I didn't have to buy anything to actually make them work. I just had to make sure that the spacing on the mount was proper.
Okay.
On a factory lower control arm, you need to buy like a kit from Atomic Fab has kits.
Right.
But yeah, this worked out. I suggest that you kind of strengthen them a little bit because they're not meant to actually take the full weight of the vehicle. So I welded all the way around the bottom mount.
Okay.
And then the top mounts, they're just from a company. I think actually ProComp makes them.
Okay.
So I basically just made my own kind of universal coilover kit.
Work.
Yeah. So and it worked really well.
Yeah. So that's the only reason you went the bottom control arm is just from the coilover?
A lot of it. I believe they're like a drop control arm. I'm not really
okay.
sure how much they drop it or if they even really
just
do
for
it all.
Lowering stuff too, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any issues with your CV being at like kind of that angle like that, or is it?
I haven't yet.
Yeah.
I don't think they're at any more of an angle up than they would have been factory pointed
That's what
down.
I always say, yeah.
So I don't think the angle's actually that wild.
Right.
It's just, it's weird to look at it because they're pointed
they
up.
are, yeah, that's how mine is. I was like, if somebody's gonna lift one, it's gonna be the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's any worse than like a lifted one.
So did you do anything like wheels, brakes, anything about that?
The front brakes are brakes from a 2020 Silverado.
Oh, okay.
Which they fit on the
pretty big.
They fit on the spindles.
Oh, okay.
With about a 1/4 inch spacer in between them.
Okay.
And then the rear brakes are SSBCs. They are an upgraded brake, but they're an upgraded brake for like a 2002 Silverado.
Oh, okay. Nice. Very cool. All right. And interior, did you pretty race car in here?
Yeah. So it's partially a competition engineering cage. Then the rest is like an S&W. I just got the main hoop. Well, it was like an 8-point kit, and then I turned it into a 10-point.
So you just bought the cage like a pre-band?
Yeah, it was a prefab cage. The seats, they're just Corbeau seats. They ordered off of Summit. The brackets we had to cut and actually drop the seats down because they sat up really high.
Yeah, I like the seats. They're cool.
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, they're sweet.
They're a lot more comfortable than I expected too.
Yeah. Did you have any like issues with well, I guess this truck it seems to be wider than mine or something, because
they are really wide.
Yours like you have a lot more room inside. Like ours, when we're sitting next to each other, we're very like tight, you know?
Yeah,
but this seems like you have quite a bit of room because our cage, I got one off Summit and I just got a pre-bent one and I had to make some more bends to it, but we bent the rear bar back so we could get our seats back because you're like in the steering wheel on that one. But this one seems like you have plenty of room. So, and did you just use the stock column to adapt to the?
So it's a stock column, and I had to actually cut it a little shorter where it comes through the firewall. I was able to cut a little bit off, and then I took a piece of AWD shaft and welded it in, and then right on there I put a U-joint. Okay. Because the steering box on a C10 is on the outside of the frame, where the steering box on this Escalade was on the inside of the frame.
Right.
So it's kind of got like a radical angle on the steering shaft, but it works really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Look, so did you use the Hydro Boost and everything from the Escalade?
Yeah, the Hydro Boost is actually from the Escalade as well.
All right, sweet. Oh yeah, I see that, yeah.
So in order to make the Hydro Boost work, all I had to do was actually cut the factory plate, and I was able to get it on there, and then I just used the factory lines to the power steering. Right, yeah, and it works really well. Like the brakes hit hard enough that you'd put yourself through the windshield if you weren't wearing your seatbelt. Sweet.
This thing's sweet. So how much power does it make? You had it dynoed, or?
I've never had it dynoed. It's a 5.3 with 10.5 pounds of boost. Yeah. It works really well. I took my dad for a ride in it, and he'll never get in it again. Right. So it works pretty good. It definitely has more in it. But I'm trying to kind of get used to the truck before I turn it up.
I know, that's how, yeah, exactly. That's, people don't need to go 1,000 horsepower out of the gate. You gotta, you know, the truck, if you have a 500 horsepower truck like this, it'll feel crazy, you know, right out whenever you build it. So if you have a 700-800 horsepower truck like this too, it's gonna be even, you know, everybody thinks online, they see YouTubers making 1,000 horsepower all day, but
1,000 horsepower is no joke.
Yeah, if you're building something like this, start with, you know,
800 horsepower is no joke.
Yeah, yeah, it's
crazy.
It is, yeah, for sure.
So it's definitely hard to hang on to it, and it's weird too because it being 4-wheel drive, you feel like you should be spinning, right? Exactly. And you're not. It's just hooking and going.
Yep. Yeah. Do you have any kind of like trans brake or anything on it? Or
I don't have a trans brake. I just have like a 2-step.
Yeah.
And it's activated through my brake pedal. So when I put it in 4-wheel drive, all I have to do is mash both pedals.
Yep.
And then let off the brake and it goes.
Sweet. That's cool.
And then I have it so I can also turn it off. So if I need to do like a burnout, I can still use my brakes. So.
Yeah. Awesome. And you're using a Terminator X? Or?
Yeah, it's a Holley Terminator X. Not the Max, so it doesn't control my transmission.
Oh, okay.
The transmission, I've got a box. Yeah, it's an aftermarket controller.
Yeah.
It's not even really a controller. It just holds certain solenoids open that allow the transmission to work in full manual.
Yeah.
So I have to shift it in all the gears, which I think is a little bit regrettable. I almost wish I did get the X Max.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's kind of nice because you just plug it in and it should work. The transmission works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's cool.
But I wanted to keep it kind of simple, so I thought, you know what, if I can get rid of the transmission tuning portion, just worry about the engine, it'll be better. So it has been good that way.
Are you running on a wastegate? Are you running on do you have a boost controller set up?
No, I'm just on just spring pressure. Yeah.
Yep. Nice. The box welded to the cab.
So in order to make this like as stable and sturdy as possible, I was thinking of different ways where I could build some framework and hold the box sides or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I saw a guy on Instagram, actually, No Sin Customs. He's got one of these, and what he did was he put a kind of a piece in and welded the box side to the cab.
Yeah.
But fortunately, since this was a long box, I had extra bed material.
Yeah.
So there's a seam that runs back in here and straight down here. So I did have to kind of fill it with some Bondo, which, whatever.
I mean, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it turned out not bad.
Yeah.
And then there's a seam that runs down here, but it's very stable. Yeah. And my mounting points are kind of all at the back. The front is, it holds itself up really well.
Like a race car.
Yeah.
So it, you just have to move this forward or back just to get the wheel well center whenever you cut it?
So that's actually a patch panel because this box is really rusty when I got it. But the seam at the back is actually just where I shorten the truck because in a 8-foot bed, they're longer in the middle, but they're also longer at the back.
Right.
So that's just, that's a seam for me shortening it up.
That's cool. All right, cool. Did you order this like plexiglass?
No, I actually, so there was a local glass shop that did a bit of Lexan stuff, and I knew they did. So I took in the original back window, and I said, here, I just need you to make this out of plexiglass. Yeah. And then for the holes for the cage, we just did those. Yeah. I did them myself. Yeah. And I just used the hole saw and then met with the hole saw with a grinder, and it turned out pretty good. They don't line up amazingly, but when I do it, when I do it next time, because every time you clean this back window, you scratch it worse and worse every time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's even starting to get bad already.
Right.
So I'm probably going to get a new one made in the spring, and then make sure my holes are a little more centered.
Yeah.
But
cool.
It's a nightmare to put it in too.
I could imagine, yeah. Cages are just kind of a mess. They just get in the way of everything.
They sure do.
But awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for showing your truck. So now I just wanted to go over kind of what we did and then kind of compare, you know, what this truck is versus ours. So if you guys saw the build video on this truck, so we just have a full frame like we were originally going to do.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I think the way that the truck sits, we both obviously want them as low as possible.
Exactly.
But it's so hard to do with an Escalade unless you have coilovers like we have. But they're not adjustable. They're just, you know, we got them cheap. They were like $200 just to get the truck setting down. They don't really do much at all. But that's why I wanted to look at yours because I might want to swap to, you know, actual coilovers. But other than that, the springs are gone, and then we're literally, I put these bump stops in because it was just smacking the frame. But it's so low, it's just on the bump stop.
Yeah.
So they're just not made to be this low. From the front of the frame to the back of the frame, we didn't cut anything. It's just what an Escalade is. And the motor is the same as an Escalade, like yours, it bolts to the same spot. But the transmission is a 480, so I just cut the cross member, moved it back, and then welded it where it was supposed to go, and that was it. And then transfer case 241C, which is a 2500 truck, and then I just leave it in 4. Yeah. Do you shift yours?
I do shift mine. Okay. I try to drive it around in 2-wheel drive, just because it kind of binds.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I have a shifter in it, but it like broke, so I just have it in 4, and you know, you don't want to make too sharp turns.
No, because it'll it feels.
Exactly.
Yeah. So mine's just like a it's an aluminum e-brake handle that I just put down to the transfer case. It's not preferable. What I'd like to do is I'd like to get like a parachute handle, and then a cable, and then run the cable underneath the truck so that it'd be a lot smoother anyway.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I need to fix my shifter for sure. It's probably not too good to drive it like that. But I was thinking actually, because we were talking about this, we're in Maryland, so we have a little military contract kind of stuff.
Okay.
And we work on a lot of Humvees, and a Humvee on civilian versions use a 4L80 also.
Okay.
And they're all-wheel drive all the time. So I was like, man, we could just take a Humvee transfer case.
Yeah.
Because they're all-wheel drive all the time, and they're kind of made for what we do.
Yeah, like they're tough.
And they're yeah. And so that would fold right up. So you can find a military surplus really cheap. I was gonna experiment with that, see what that does, because it's the same output shaft, input shaft. It's 4L80.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
It would fold right up. So.
Well, like I've got a Silverado SS at home, and it's got a 4L80 trans in it. And in order to make the all-wheel drive work, I had to get a different input shaft for it. And it was made by a guy, he's somewhere in Michigan. I actually drove down and picked it up.
Oh, okay.
But it was about $700.
Right.
So I didn't want to go that route with this because that's a $100 transfer case in that.
Yeah.
I don't want to put a $700 part into
in a $100 transfer.
Yeah, exactly. So I just went with the 2500 transfer case, and this way I can do two-wheel drive burnouts too.
Yeah, I'll have to try. I'll let you know how it works. You could get them pretty cheap on eBay.
Yeah.
Because they don't make the Humvees anymore, so all the surplus parts for them, they kind of just sell them really cheap. So, but they are all-wheel drive, and they're real four-wheel drive, like all the time.
Yeah.
So and they'll slip, like unlike these, where it's just a chain.
Yeah.
But yeah, that might be something to be interested in.
Yeah, that's cool. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, the cab on this a little rotted, but I just put it on the stock cab mounts. The frame like lined up right on where the cab mounts were, so I just drilled straight through.
Okay.
Bolted it. Yeah.
Oh shit.
And then the back I had to make the mounts just a little bit more narrow. Yeah. But I just made the mounts to the inside, and then it bolted up.
It looks like it worked out sweet. Like one thing I was afraid of is when I was going to use the whole Escalade frame, I didn't think I'd actually be able to get that frame under there without doing like a body lift on it.
I know, that's what a lot of guys do. They actually, now they sell a kit for the older like Tahoes and stuff, where it's like this big bar, and you have to weld the bar to the frame, and then it has mounts on it and stuff. Okay. But the truck's so high.
Yeah, like I've seen, there's another guy that's done one of these. Like I can't even remember what year body style it was, but I remember seeing it. And the thing that I noticed the most on it was that you could see the whole chassis under that truck.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I wasn't super into it either. Like with this, you can't see the chassis at all until
if you put the hood on, obviously it's turbo and stuff, but you put a bed floor, you would have no idea. That's so cool.
Like people get looking at it, and it's funny because one of the biggest things for me that I think makes the truck cool is that it's four-wheel drive.
Right.
And very few people even notice that it's four-wheel drive. I have to be like, because everybody's looking at the big turbo and the motor, and they're like, oh yeah, this thing's cool. And I'm like, you see the CV shafts? Right. It blows their mind.
I know, yeah.
So it's such a good feeling, but it's almost like, it almost sucks because I want people to notice that it's four-wheel drive. Like when I'm driving by, I want people to be like, that thing is four-wheel drive. That's crazy.
Well, it's even worse on ours because it kind of just looks like a C10.
Yeah.
Like, there's like a billion of them here. Yeah. But like yours, I feel like you have more recognition because people seeing the videos.
Yeah.
But your truck's also very like recognizable with
what it is.
Scheme. Yeah. Ours is blue. But it's cool because like if people walk up on this, I don't have the bed floor in it, but I do want to put a bed floor in it one day. But people walk up, they have no idea. Like even they look under the hood,
it's hard to tell on yours even under the hood. So.
Yeah, it's cool. But yeah, it's good and bad, I guess. But yeah,
it's almost like because you have that sleeper aspect, right? Because you can pull up beside somebody that's probably got a lot more power and still smoke them because you're gonna leave and they're gonna sit there and spin.
The only thing that sucks is the cage, because it's kind of like a giveaway.
It is
like,
a little bit
something under there, but yeah.
Yep. The thing is, like, I come down to this event or whatever, and there's so many people, like, I recognize a ton of people.
Yeah.
And then we kind of get talking, like, even when I met Rich from DeBoss Garage, we get talking about things. But this time of year, I'm not watching TV, I'm not watching YouTube, I am out in the garage with that.
Yep.
So we kind of catch up, and then I almost feel bad because people are telling me about what they're doing, and it's on YouTube. It's like, I've been working on my stuff, I haven't watched that.
Yep. Yeah.
So... But it is good. It's good to get out and like meet people.
Yep.
It's great to see what people have been up to in their garages because I don't keep up with anything. I'm awful for it.
Yeah.
And it's great to see it. So.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this video and showing us your truck. I mean, this is really cool. We're at an event where guys like this that build crazy stuff like we do we can meet them, talk about them, and see what is different about their build and our build, and see what we can improve on and stuff like that. So super awesome, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.